Hi, this is Caitlin,
This is Gabby.
and welcome back to AvengeGirls and Friends.
Guess whose movie we're doing today?
It's mine, and I'm very, very excited
I'm very excited
because,
too.
as you will learn, well, Gabby already knows this, but as you guys will learn, this is the movie that got me into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I love Thor a lot, and I've always loved Thor, so I'm very glad that we finally get to talk about him.
Isn't it interesting that the movies that got us into the MCU are the movies of our code name?
Counterparts, yeah,
Yeah.
that is kind of interesting. And I think it only works for us two because
Yeah.
it doesn't really work for the rest. But
We took the good ones. Sorry, everybody.
ha 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 ha. Especially Colton, because he apparently imagine if he would have objected to being called Tony Stark had he watched Iron Man when we
That's
first started.
probably true.
But it's fine.
Amazing. All right.
Anyways, yeah, so we're talking about Thor today. I don't know if we spelled that out. Um, and what do you what are we gonna what do we want to talk about first?
What do we want to talk about first? Let's talk about, I don't know. Why do you love Thor? Why do you love the
Um,
movie? Why do you love the character? Let's go with that.
so when I first watched Thor, first of all, I was just it's such a different movie than the rest of the MCU movies, or at least those that had come out at that time, which was not a lot. It was Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. But I am a very big fan of like space and aliens and science is magic and family. And this is just like all of those, almost all of my
This
favorite
is your
tropes.
shit. I mean,
Yeah, it's packed into one movie. The only thing this movie is missing is the found family trope, but we get
mm,
that like in a couple movies with the Avengers.
true.
Yeah, and I feel like this movie also kind of sets up the Avengers more so than the other, like Iron Man 1 and 2 and Incredible Hulk did. At least in my eyes, because it's just such a complete, like, holy shit, there's aliens and there's magic and Loki's gonna,
Oh, from
you
like
know.
that, from that perspective. Yeah,
Yes,
I
yeah,
could see that. Yeah, that
yeah.
threat.
But Thor himself, I also adore, because he starts out, I mean, and we'll get more into this later on, but he starts out as like a complete total, kind of like a frat boy, but also kind of just like this, asshole dude who thinks he's so cool and he just like graduated from high school, right?
He's a
And
fucking jock.
he's a jock from high school and he's like amazing and all his friends, love him and he has this brother who like loves him but also is like super jealous. And
Quite
then
frankly, I want to beat him up.
and then very quickly when he gets a reality check halfway through the movie or not even halfway through the movie,
Yeah.
very quickly into the movie and realizes that like he's not all that. Like he gets taken down several pegs very
Mhm.
quickly and he becomes so humble and he becomes the character that I just adore throughout the rest of his MCU incarnations. He's
Totally.
so good. So good.
I mean, I said that Thor pre-humbleness is literally everything that I hate. But alongside that, in the one part where you think he gets taken down several pegs by Odin, when Odin
Yes.
casts him out, I was like,
Yeah.
even in his pre-humbleness, as I'll call it, if Odin had told him why he shouldn't go there or anything, he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
come on.
yeah. Like
This
wouldn't have
is
gone to Frost Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have gone to Jotunheim. He wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Sometimes parents, I'm just gonna throw this out
No,
there,
you're right. You
like
should say it.
tell your kids why not to do the thing, and they might actually, listen.
I
Crazy thought,
100%
I know.
agree. No, because I actually really hate Odin. I don't like a lot of the parental figures in the MCU. I'm coming to realize. I think they're all like the dads. I think the dads are all really shitty. Um,
Seems like it, yeah.
yeah. And Odin is shitty because he like pitted Loki and Thor against each other their entire lives, even though he like knew he was always gonna like quote unquote choose Thor, to be king. And
Hmm.
even then, like he knew Thor wasn't ready. And I mean, we can also talk about how this was partially Loki's manipulation and that, getting Odin to see that Thor isn't ready to take the throne. But I think a part of me thinks that like Odin was never really gonna give him the throne.
Oh no, I don't think so.
He's
There's some
he's
prejudice against the
terrible.
frost giants there, I'm
Oh,
sure. So
100%.
like there's no way he was ever gonna legitimately
No,
give Loki any of that power.
never.
But also, my big question, why is Odin retiring from being
Yeah,
king? I
I
don't
think
understand. Was that
I
even in the movie? Did they even mention that? Or was it just
no.
like hey, guess what? You're gonna be king now.
It was like I
Yes,
think
this is the
the
Lion King.
and at least he doesn't get thrown off a cliff and trampled to death.
Might as well, I mean, like
Kind of.
whatever.
But I mean, Odin survived, so it's not as bad as Hamlet or the Lion King. But anyways, I was going to say that I think the implication is that he needs to give Thor the throne because he needs to like do his like Odin sleep thing, and that they're not sure how long that'll take. But why does he need to Odin sleep? Like,
I
you know what
don't
I mean?
understand what that is even, I don't
I don't
think.
know either. I
I
think
missed the explanation.
maybe they explain it in the comics, but I haven't read the comics, so like casual moviegoers would be completely confused. So I
Yeah.
don't know. But he sleeps for a bit to regain his power is the gist of it, I
Oh,
believe.
okay. So when
Yeah,
he comes back,
he's
like, if
powerful
he
again.
were able to come back, was he gonna take the throne back from Thor, or was he
That's
gonna
what
let
I
Thor
think.
keep being king?
He
Like,
probably would have looked at like, oh, Thor, you've done a shit job.
I'm
I would
taking
have
that
taken that
back,
away from him.
basically. I would not be surprised.
Okay, but can we actually let's circle back a little bit and talk about, the moment where Odin takes away Thor's his hammer and his like his
Oh
outfit,
yeah,
I guess.
that's good. That's good.
Because like we were saying before, like Thor probably would have listened to Odin and seen reasoning had Odin
Hmm.
actually explained what the fuck was going on, right?
Yeah.
And you can see it in his face there. Like he looks so chastised and so sad and like upset that he's disappointed his dad.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I
Yeah,
really did like mess up.
completely fucked up. And he knows it in that moment. But it's also like not 100% his fault, in my opinion, as we've said, because Odin should have explained it, right? But also, besides that, it's just such a relatable moment. Like, I don't know. Maybe not everyone has that experience
We've
with
all felt
their
that.
father. But I feel like the two of us have maybe been in a situation where we have in theory disappointed in their eyes our parents or our dad specifically, and then felt super shitty, but it wasn't really our fault because they just don't communicate well. I feel like maybe that's a millennial thing with their parents. Parents don't put
It could
millennial
be.
parents, or I should say parents of millennials do not communicate very well. Like the baby boomer generation,
Not always, no.
no, not at all, not in my experience. But that's besides the point. I'm not necessarily arguing that this is this film is a millennial and baby boomer representation, but it could be.
I'm sure you could write something about that,
I'm sure I could spin it
probably.
that way. Let's talk about Jane because I feel like that's
I
maybe the
love her.
next kind of step after Thor is cast out. We kind of go back to Jane,
And
right?
actually, it starts with her. The
It
movie
does.
starts with her,
The movie starts
which I forgot about.
similar to Iron Man, the first Iron Man. It starts in media res,
You're right, it does.
and I feel like they did that maybe because they were like, "Oh, it worked really well with Iron Man. Why not here?" And I think it's not bad. I just think it's not as effective as Iron Man because the stakes were so much higher. Whereas this, you're just like, ah, she just hit a man, I think. Like you're not really sure
Maybe.
what's going on. You don't know who he
Um,
is.
right. And I kind of, part of me was like, I'm glad that Marvel eventually figured out how to nail their openings because I
Agreed.
wasn't as big of a fan of it this time. But then again, I can't think out of a better way that they could have done it.
Yeah.
So,
I think to its credit, it introduces and sets up like Jane and Darcy and that whole like Selvig, that whole crew very well. Like it introduces their characters and who they are like in 30 seconds flat, and you're like, ah, okay, I know exactly who they are. But then the movie like doesn't really focus on them or do them service really. So I don't
yeah.
know what the point of opening with them was if later on you're just kind of I don't know. Not that the movie, I'm sorry, let me go back. Not that the movie necessarily like doesn't. get into their characters or like completely throws them to the wayside. But the movie is about Thor and Loki, in my opinion, at its core.
Yeah. I guess what even though it's the same style as Iron Man, the problem with it is that the characters in the in media res opening are not the same ones that you go back to in the lead up to where it meshes back together.
Yeah. This isn't a movie that introduces you in media res about Jane and then goes back to Jane and explains how she got there.
Right. Which I would have watched, but
oh, yeah. By the way, it's very small aside. Well, maybe we can make it bigger later on. But Jane Thor, Jane Thor movie? Like, as it, you know, Jane Foster as Thor? You've seen those pictures, right? That comic run? Yeah. Fucking awesome.
Jane and Betty in a movie when...
Yes!
Give me. I'm ready.
Give it to me.
I need the hell up. Okay.
Okay, anyways. I will never really understand the fandom's utter hatred for Jane. Like, she is a hot, capable, smart astrophysicist, and I would also immediately go like, oh my god, goo goo gaga, like just like Thor does. He like immediately falls in love with her, and that's relatable. Like,
seriously,
me too, Thor.
I can totally get that. So like, I guess I've never been as aware of that section of MCU fandom. So like, why do people hate her?
Okay, like, in theory, it's because she's, this is, you know, I'm pulling quotes that I've read on like YouTube comments or whatever.
Right.
But she's, you know, one-dimensional and only exists as a love interest and is boring and, you know, vapid and just not a good character. And I
don't think you can be vapid and be an astrophysicist. I don't think that works. But okay.
Like we said about the beginning of the movie, how well it introduces like that gang of characters.
Oh yeah, like, she's there on a mission.
Oh yeah, she's so into her research. Thor at first is just like an afterthought, like, oh my god, he's a hot dude, but it's not until after he helps her that she suddenly is like, oh, he's a hot dude. You know what I mean?
She's like, oh yeah, now that like you've done something to actually bring my attention to you as a not human being, but a person, like, yeah, okay. And you are actually there.
Yeah. As an astrophysicist, like if I was an astrophysicist, you know, and my life's work was suddenly right before my eyes, and there was a hot alien god, or just a hot alien, you know, like, do you blame her? I'm sorry, fandom. Like, shut the fuck up.
Second of all, talking about how capable she is, by the way, I like 100% believe that at the end she would have been able to get back to him on Asgard.
Oh yeah, like she would have, if the Bifrost hadn't been broken, she would have figured it out.
Oh yeah, I fully believe that.
She's smart. That's her life. Like she was onto something. Thor even like said that at one point. He
was like, "Oh, great, you're doing great." So
also, I love the part where like, so the destroyer or whatever the fuck it's called that Loki sends to New Mexico, and it's destroying the town, as is its name. And Thor is like, all of you need to get out of here. And Jane's like, I'm not, if you're staying, then I'm staying. Like, I'm not going. He's basically like, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's go. Like, he doesn't even argue with her. He just believes in her so much.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They're good. They're good. And fandom is just mean. That's all I have to say.
That's true. I think I'm with you on that. Yep.
I wonder, I mean, obviously, like, they like break up later on, as we find out in Ragnarok.
Wait, but why?
We don't know why. Well, in theory, like outside of canon, they broke up just because Natalie, oh my God, what's her name? Portman.
Natalie Portman was just getting so much shit from people.
Well, no, Natalie Portman didn't want to come back, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
And so they just wrote her out basically, and like, oh, it was, you know, an awkward breakup. So that's like the out of canon, you know, excuse. Okay. And that's like sad, but I kind of get it, especially since like you'll see. Have you seen Thor: Dark World, Gabs?
Literally once in my life.
Okay. It there's a reason why it is ranked very low on most people's like lists, and that's because it it's a movie about Thor and Loki at its core, in my opinion. And Jane is given a huge part in it, but the movie, it's a complete disservice to her. Like, she is reduced to this, like, damsel in distress, and this it's one of the Infinity Stones is like inside her at one point, and they need to save her.
Okay, listen, this is some BS. Let Natalie Portman kick ass to K-19.
Exactly, it's a whole thing, and it doesn't do her service. I like that Ragnarok finally did a movie that was, about Thor and Loki, and was just about Thor and Loki instead of trying to shoehorn in something else like, romance. But anyways, I digress. What was I saying?
Sorry, I distracted you. We were talking about,
okay.
and then we were talking about how they broke up.
Yeah, that I brought that up specifically because, in Infinity War, Thor has like lost everyone basically, and he like I think he would still kind of care about her, but he doesn't even know if she's alive at that point. And I only bring that up because when we were watching this, my sister went, "Oh, hey," this was in the beginning, like when they're all feasting and like cheering and they're all friends and together, and she goes, "Oh, hey, Thor like hasn't lost anyone yet."
Oh,
I was like, "Oh my God."
Like, everyone he loves is alive right now.
Yeah, because by Infinity War, like he
They're
has
like
that
all
whole,
dead.
like,
You're right.
yeah, he has that whole, like, I forget exactly what the line is, but like, what else have I got to lose, basically. And I'm like, Jesus.
Oh man, that is a lot to handle.
Especially since, I mean, you see in this movie, like, his friends mean so much to him, and his family means so much to him. Jane means so much to him, and then by Infinity War, he's all alone. He just has himself. No wonder he latches on to Rocket and Groot. It's because they're like his new little mini family unit for a little bit. Like,
I love them all together.
I do too.
Okay.
That was like a surprising thing that I liked about Infinity War.
Okay, but we're not talking about Infinity War. I'm just heading it off at the pass. I'm like, I know I could talk about Rocket and Thor and Groot for like another hour, but
we're not there yet. Oh my God. Okay.
I don't have anything substantial to say about his friends. Just that I love that one of them looks like Gimli, and he even has an axe like Gimli. And
it's true.
And he might also be the one that says, "Don't mistake my appetite for amity." And I was like, that's iconic. Just because I'm eating a lot doesn't mean I'm happy. Or
I mean, he has to be the one to say it because he's the one who eats, I think. Also, okay, Thor, in my opinion, has always been funny. And I just want to point this out because, like, so many people come, like, Ragnarok were like, oh, like, he's, actually, like, a funny person. Haha, that's kind of weird. He's always been funny. Like, the part where, like, he points to Sif and he's like, and you, who, when you wanted to be a warrior, but people were like, oh, no, you can't because you're a girl. Who supported you or whatever? She was like, like, I actually did that myself.
Yeah, it's like, I supported you every step of the way.
It was such, like, good comedic timing. Like, Chris Hemsworth has always been very funny, and I think people have not appreciated that. And I'm glad
people would suck it up and watch Ghostbusters, they would realize.
Yes, oh my God.
There was another thing about Sif that you, I think, mentioned, or not out loud, but in your notes, that she's the first female warrior or whatever, but then the Valkyries also existed.
Yeah,
so like
that I'm confused about. Like, okay, so let me just run through what we know about, like, Thor canon in MCU, right? So in the timeline, there was Odin and Hela, and they, like, did a bunch of bad shit, right? And yes. He, like, cast Hela out or something, and the Valkyries fought Hela, and all of them died, and then Odin finally, like, effectively banished her to hell or whatever, right? And then that was, like, a long time ago. And then Thor is born, and, stuff happens, thousands of years happen because he's, like, 1,500 years old or whatever. So there's a long period there where stuff happens. And somewhere in between that period, Sif wants to become a warrior, but she can't because she's a woman. And Thor, like, champions her, and she becomes, I guess another kind, not really a Valkyrie, but so Valkyries are things of legend.
Okay. Is it because the Valkyries, like, I don't know, failed so spectacularly at like
Maybe
defeating Hela that they just outlawed like all female warriors
that's
from that point
terrible.
on? Okay, first of all, Odin is terrible.
That's true. So I wouldn't
Second
put
of
it past.
all, that's the only thing I can think of off the top of
Yeah.
my head. Otherwise, that's
I
stupid.
mean, like Odin is king. It is like a monarchy. So like he would have had to been the one who like somehow passed down the or neglected to pass down rather the
Hmm.
fact that women have always been very strong warriors in Asgardian history like an attempt to forget about Hela, I guess. So basically he like created sexism in Asgard
That
because he was a
bitch.
terrible dad.
That sounds about right.
Oh my God. At least Thor did not let his dad's terrible sexism affect him because he
That's
was
true.
like, I love Valkyries. I always wanted to be one.
I love him. That's so great.
He's so good. Oh, this is loving Thor hours, kids. It's so good.
I
Um,
do like him. This did rekindle my love for Thor. It has
Good.
been a
I'm
while.
I'm glad. He's a very good kid. He's very pure after he has taken down a couple of pegs.
Right,
Although
right.
I do have to say, I like understand and kind of relate to how he is in the beginning, not to like the gross extent that he he takes it to. Um, but like the need to like prove himself. That's what he kind of is operating on.
Yeah,
Like, I,
that's the relatable part, I
yes,
think.
yeah. And he's brash and he's impatient and he's easily embarrassed and that causes him to act out. And I feel like I
Get
was
that.
like that when I was a kid too. Obviously I grew out of that by the time I like hit puberty, but like he didn't evidently at 1500 years old.
Some of
Uh,
us are still easily embarrassed.
um so I talked about this last episode and that Thor is kind of the opposite of the Hulk in that Thor is like super old in years, like he's 1500 years old, but super young in mind. Like he acts like a goddamn 18-year-old fresh out of college or fresh out of high school rather.
Yeah, yeah.
Um or a college frat boy, but then when he's forced to kind of come back down to earth, get it, wink wink. He learns that he's been dumb all those years, really. He's been a dumbass, which is
Mm.
also kind of relatable. I don't know where I was going with that other than
He's
that
the opposite of the Hulk, and the Hulk is
he's
really
young.
young, but he can focus.
Yeah, he's really young and like like he's been in existence for what did we say? Like maybe like a couple of years, I think, or
Yeah.
months. Yeah. He's like a baby, but he's still able, like in his mind, he's a bit like older. He's a bit able to like comprehend things. But he's just a baby.
You used that exact voice last week too.
I did. Um, let's see. Oh, you mentioned, which is obviously the obvious parallel because Kenneth Branagh is on record, I believe, as stating this is like a Shakespeare tale, right? And you said that it's like The Lion King and Hamlet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But they literally did that whole thing where like Loki is hanging off the bridge and
I
then
mean,
like
yeah, there are clear
let's go.
parallels.
I'm like, but I clearly
Yeah.
how else am I having grown up at the time that I did? How
Yes.
am I not supposed to draw that parallel? They even have the
Surely.
same color schemes.
Oh, you right. I didn't think about that.
Let's
You
be
right.
real.
Yeah. I mean, you are 100% right. Like it's a Shakespeare tale, and I
It's
feel
very
like
dramatic. It's
yes, it's
very
very
dramatic.
dramatic. All of the Asgardians are just dramatic as fuck.
It's
Like it's
true.
not just Thor and Loki. Like even his friends are like, I don't know, they're all very dramatic. Odin is very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Frigga is dramatic. She pulls out a sword when she knows like magic. What are you gonna do with a sword, bitch? Like the same
Fair.
with Loki. Like what was he gonna do with a dagger against Thanos? I don't know. He's just following in his mother's footsteps, I guess. They forget they have magic when they need to use
Literally, all I can think is like muscle memory. Maybe
it.
like he's used magic enough that like you would think the magic would be his muscle memory. I don't know.
Okay. Concept. You know how Loki just whips out daggers and he goes, ah, and he stabs Thor. a lot.
Yes.
What if he like learned that trick from Frigga? Like Frigga will just sometimes go, ah!
And stab Odin.
Yeah.
Oh
I
no.
just think that's a fun thing to think.
Oh, that's kind of cute, actually. Okay, someone write me fanfic, please. Thank you.
Or at the very least, Frigga definitely taught him how to transform into a snake,
Yes.
which is cute. Anyways, I bring up the Lion King Shakespeare Hamlet thing because I also got like that's like the A plot, right? But then the B plot is like
Yeah.
a Sword in the Stone retelling, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
In that except Sword in the Stone starts with Arthur not knowing that he's like worthy and gonna become king, but Thor starts assuming that he is worthy and going to become king, and then has to have that stripped away from him and can't pick up the sword from the stone until he has learned a lesson of some kind and learned to be worthy again. I was thinking, and maybe you disagree, maybe a lot of people disagree, but so the part where it's just after he tries to pick up the hammer and it's just not moving and he's, clearly very upset, and Loki comes and tells him that
Oh,
his dad
that
is
was
dead,
so
which is a
bad.
blatant lie. But Thor just looks so like he looks humbled in that moment. Like I wonder, like would he have been able to lift it
Oh, like
even then?
is that the moment,
Is that the
maybe?
moment when it and he
Ooh.
just doesn't like obviously he has to go on a little bit more of an adventure and come to know I was gonna say Natalie Portman. Come, come to know Jane a little bit more. Um but I feel like in that moment, like that's when he would be able to actually like pick up the hammer again. I think he's learned his lesson in that moment because when Loki's like, "Oh, you know, Dad's dead and I'm king now," ha ha ha. He doesn't even like question it. He's just like, "Well, can I come home? Like I miss home and I'm like so sad here." Like he doesn't even want the kingship in that moment. He's just sad and he's mourning his dad. You know what I mean?
Man. It's either that or it's just defending the humans in general from
True.
Loki's machinations or whatever. But it's one of those two, I think, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I would agree.
Loki, you son of a bitch. By the way, we just got to talk about Loki more in general
That is
because
true.
I just
I mean, like I said, like
when
this is like a
when
Thor and Loki movie, in my opinion.
when
But
did
yeah,
he become evil? When?
yeah. Before we started recording, Gabri was like, "I don't understand. Like, when did this happen?"
Was he evil all along and he was just hiding it and playing me? Because I mean, obviously it worked. I felt really bad for him.
Okay, having seen this movie too many times, I have like my own working theory about
Okay,
that.
you know I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna
Okay.
take your word for it. This
So
is
I
canon
think
to me now.
this is canon, whatever I say from now on.
You are
Bruce
Thor.
Thor writes. No. So I think that Loki, like, okay, so up until the first part of the movie, he lets the frost giant in and it's defeated and he gets Thor banished basically, right?
Mm-hmm. But
I don't
why?
know. Yeah, I don't know if he meant to get Thor banished specifically, but he did definitely mean to disrupt Thor being crowned king because, and he was right, Thor was not ready to
Because
become
he
king.
wanted a fair shake at it too.
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
maybe. I think maybe the other movies argue that because he does like become king for a little bit and he
Mm-hmm.
wants he wants to be recognized. But I think in that moment it was just about, Thor's not ready to become king and I'm gonna fuck it up for him because no one else is gonna fucking listen to me because no one ever listens to me, right?
True. Okay.
But then when they are at I forget what I'm sorry, Frost Giant home is called, but when they're there fighting the Frost Giants,
Oh boy. Well, sure.
the Fryants,
Oh
when
man.
when they're there fighting the Frost Giants, he turns blue, right? So one of
Yes.
them, I think he touches like Gimli, and Gimli's like, "Don't let him touch you," which is funny because everyone else has like actual real long armor. So,
Yeah.
and one of them does touch Loki, but it doesn't hurt him at all. It just turns him blue, and he suddenly realizes like,
Like, oh shit.
yeah, like something is confirmed in his mind, like I am not actually like the rest. And I feel like if that had never happened, and then if Odin hadn't like fought with him, like that's like such a good scene, by the way.
That
Like,
upsets me
yeah,
so much.
it's again another
That's the
like,
moment where I feel so bad for him.
yeah,
I'm
and you
like,
hate Odin, right? Yeah, it's
yeah.
another one of those moments where you're like, wow, he's not a good dad, and like you've been there in the kid's place, you know? You can kind of put yourself in
I
Loki's
can
shoes.
still see the tears sparkling in his
Oh God.
eyes.
And
I
Tom Hiddleston's
realize this is
such
very
a good
dramatic. I'm gonna beat
he's
him
such
up.
a good actor. Tom, yeah, like that scene kills me. That one and the ending scene, but we'll get to that. But anyway, so that from that, like if Loki hadn't realized that he was actually a frost giant and hadn't really had that fight with Odin, and then Odin hadn't, you know, accidentally fallen to Odin's sleep before he was ready, I don't think the rest of the movie would be a thing. Like from that moment onwards, I personally, Caitlin, think that Loki is just suddenly acting on whims and he's just spontaneously trying to make this work for him.
Mm.
He didn't have any of that planned, I don't think.
Okay.
And my only evidence is because at the end of the movie, I forget what he says exactly, but he basically like tells Thor like I'm basically doing what you wanted to do. Like I'm going to destroy all the frost giants. And he's doing that out of anger. He's not doing that because it was always his plan.
Yeah.
He's doing
Right.
it because he's angry because he is apparently one of them and Odin lied to him and he's going to prove Odin right that he is actually the right person for the kingship
Mm.
by destroying whatever.
Cool.
So
Cool.
that is my interpretation,
Sure.
is that Loki he's not an evil character. He is very cunning and sly. He takes advantage of situations for himself and his family, but he's not evil. And I don't think he was evil in this movie. I think he just acts on his whims and manipulates people, and that's why he's the villain of this movie. Although,
Right.
again, Odin fucking sucks, so I would also argue that he's a little bit of a villain.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah,
Let Loki be blue again.
I agree.
That's all I
And
have to say. Let
yeah,
Tom Hiddleston be blue.
he's good. He's good when he's blue.
He looks good blue.
It's a
I
good
think
look.
he would be a great Thrawn, probably.
Thrawn. Why do I know
Thrawn's
this?
Thrawn's like a character from Star Wars that I actually don't
Oh,
know that much about, but he's
I
blue
know.
with
That's
red
why.
eyes. Like
Yes.
let him be Thrawn. We've already seen that
Yeah.
he can do it.
He's like a popular character too, isn't he, Thrawn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, not to get Star Wars on this MCU episode, but yeah, he would be good.
I can do more of that because I went the whole movie not comparing Thor to Anakin once. I did a great
Damn.
job. And then,
And then
oh
you
no, I
did?
did the whole thing. I did the whole thing. I didn't compare to him at all. I was very
Wow.
proud of myself.
I'm very proud of you. It's right
I
next.
know that, I mean, just because Natalie Portman is love interest for both of them. That's the only reason. But if I had been
Yeah.
looking for it, I would have been able to make it work.
Oh
I'm just
yeah.
saying.
If anyone can, it's Gabri because
It's true.
she is the ultimate Star Wars fan.
It's
Which
my
you
only
will,
skill.
yeah, which you all will find out next year when we do the
Oh
Star
God.
Wars series.
It's gonna be wild, folks.
Gabby's just gonna cry every episode.
I won't every episode, probably. A lot though.
Probably. So we talked a little bit about just the hammer, like, you know, you can only be worthy to lift it, and Thor can't lift it at one point. We all know the movie.
Mhm.
But like Mjolnir, like as a concept, like okay, so there's a part at the end where Thor puts it on Loki's chest and Loki
Right.
can't get up, right? And
That's
it's
great.
not that like if it was like people think of like, oh, Mjolnir is just so heavy, right? And we could this is kind of harkening back to the Age of Ultron scene. They
Oh,
the
right.
joke about an Age of Ultron. It's
Yeah.
not just it's not heavy. It's just you literally can't lift it. So like if there's no there's probably this is just the science minded person in me thinking about it, but like there's probably no pressure really or not a lot of pressure on Loki's chest in that moment. He
Right.
just is not able to get up because he's not worthy and he can't lift it.
Yeah,
And so
it's
there's
not
a difference.
heavy, it's immobile.
Yes,
And they're
there's a
not the
difference
same thing.
between heaviness and mobility, I guess. Yeah, using that word. I think that's very interesting because I think it's a popular misconception that, it's going to be very hard and forceful no matter where it is or what it is, you know what I mean? But I think it's not necessarily heavy. I mean, it certainly is when like Thor throws it, but maybe that's just because he wants it to be heavy. Or because he's just a fucking god and aliens can throw it really hard, you
I
know?
mean, it's a hammer made out of,
Yeah. Hey,
heavy
metal.
metals.
But anyways, that ending scene in general
Hmm.
is just it's so good. I know you wanted to talk about it a little bit and how just like Loki in that scene, right?
Yeah, Loki's entreaties about like how he didn't want the throne. He only wanted to be treated equally to Thor. And then whether or not like is he telling the truth at that point? I'm inclined to believe he is. Like I think you are
Like,
too.
yeah. If we're going by my weird theory, I
I
think
think
you're right.
your weird theory is reasonable, but
He never wanted the throne. He only wanted to be your equal. He's only trying to live up to Thor's image almost, or what Odin puts on Thor, if that makes sense.
or
And
how
I
he
think,
thought of Thor.
yeah, yeah.
I
It
just
was
a lot of the things that Loki does throughout the movie, and I guess this is totally to Hiddleston and the director's credit, is just I don't know how much of it is Loki being a manipulative son of a
yeah,
bitch and how much is genuine like Loki feelings, like how
yeah,
much of it is something he's repressed for like millennia and
yes, yeah,
how much is he making up so that people will, do what he wants.
yeah. And I think that's part of
And I don't
why
know.
he's such an interesting character in that way because you never really he always keeps you guessing, right? He shows you these like really beautiful in theory very personal intimate moments of himself like when he's hanging off the staff or whatever and he's looking up at Thor and Odin and he's like I could have done it, father, I could have done it, for you, for all of us. And that is such an amazing scene. It's so well acted, by the way. It like made me cry the first couple of times I watched this movie. But that moment, that feels, even though it's so beautiful and powerful, it feels more like an act to me. Because suddenly Odin is there, and I feel like that shifts.
Ooh,
You know what
okay.
I mean? Like the part
Yeah,
where he tells Thor he didn't want the throne, he wanted to be his equal. That feels more real to me than that whole entreaty to his dad.
okay.
And maybe
Yeah,
that's just my personal bias reading into the situation here, but
I'd need to watch it a couple more times, I think, to
yeah,
figure out like really solidly what my opinion is on that. But I can
totally.
see that.
Yeah,
I just don't know if that's what I feel in my heart.
yeah.
Speaking of pleading, though, Thor pleading with
Oh,
Loki when Loki is
yeah,
controlling that robot thingy or whatever. New Mexico? New
yeah,
Mexico.
Mexico. Oh, by the
I
way,
don't, what?
no, it was a very small aside about New Mexico.
Uh-oh.
It just
Okay.
that they're all wearing fucking like coats and jackets, like winter wear, and I was like, it's New Mexico during the day. Like, how cold can it get? My sister looked it up, and she's like, oh, in the winter it gets down to like the 50s. So they're just weak.
That's me. That would be me.
You're weak,
I
and so are New
am.
Mexicans. That's
Wow.
amazing. I just if it's
Apologize
50,
to the New Mexicans.
I'm sorry
They're
guys, but
not
so
used
are
to
we.
it. They're
Okay,
not
that's fair.
like
That
they
is
were
fair.
not they're
It's like
not
Californians too,
Midwest
right?
they are not Midwest winter hardy, which
That's true. It's
thank
just so
God.
weird because when it hits the 50s here, we're like, woo!
We're like, cool, we're gonna wear
Shorts!
shorts now.
Sorry, go on, Gabs.
No, yeah, just speaking of Thor pleading with or people pleading, but Thor pleading with Loki in that scene in New Mexico. It is I don't know, it's one of the I feel like two very cinematic moments in this movie. The other is when he's initially trying to lift the hammer in New Mexico, and
Ooh,
it's
yes.
framed exactly like he's going to succeed. And it's
Yeah.
got the swelling music, and then he just
Oh.
can't do it. And that was, I actually laughed a little bit. I was like, sorry.
I mean, that's
Um,
fair.
um, but this
Kind
is
of.
the other one, and it's just such a cinematic showdown, but it also really underscores the thing that I think you've been saying through this whole episode, which is that it's about them, and it's even though Loki's not there, you really get that connection between them, and it's
Yeah.
just the gentle string music. That's the
Oh
exact phrase I
man.
used. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, that score, especially in that part, is just so good. It was worth the whole movie just to see that scene, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
I loved it.
It's moving. It is. And
Yeah.
you think in that moment that Loki might actually listen to him
Oh,
and
I
stand
know.
down.
I did. I knew
Yeah.
technically what
That he
happened.
would.
And I was like, oh, he's gonna do it.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
he bitch slaps him.
bitch.
Which, like, arguably, like, maybe Loki just didn't realize that that would, like, really hurt him. He was like, whatever, Thor's a bitch, and he, slaps him. But not realizing that he's technically immortal now.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Oh, yeah.
So that affected him a lot more than
Yes.
he doesn't have his normal strength. But the moment after that, I still get shivers when the lightning comes down, the thunder,
Yes.
and he gets the like chainmail up and down his arms, and he has Mjolnir
Yeah,
again,
that
and
was really cool.
it is thrilling. I love that moment. I love Thor. You all
Another
know this.
real reason that you're Thor is just the whole thunderstorm thing. Like there's just that scene where I don't know if it was at the end or if it was earlier when it was storming or whatever, but
It
it
was
was
the Clint scene,
thundering and
yeah.
lightning and his face just lit up. I was like, oh, it's Caitlin.
That's true. I had that fleeting thought too, because I was like, that is so relatable. It's the scene where he and Jane are like hiding out, and he's gonna go get the hammer,
Yeah,
and
that's what it was.
it starts to rain and thunder and lightning, and he just is like, oh, perfect. It's like it's warming up for me.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And that's the one instance that Hawkeye is in
Yes. I was like, we gotta talk about Hawkeye.
Fave Adventure.
Good. A
Maybe
lot of people don't like him, but
I love Hawkeye. It might just be because he's an archer, but listen, I have a
you're
bias and I will admit it. But I didn't realize he was only in this movie for like 5 minutes.
Like he
And it
doesn't come
pisses
back.
me off.
It's like they just needed him, I don't know, as like air support just in case for that one moment. And then Coulson was like, okay, kid, pack it up. We need you, like, I don't know, to do intel
Somewhere.
on the Hulk or something. You know what I mean?
Like, annoying. Just I love that he was in it. I love that he was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like dude, this guy that you're having me as my target is doing a kick-ass job, and
Yeah.
honestly, I'm gonna let him win.
Yeah. I'm
But
starting to root for this guy.
yeah,
And
and
Thor writes.
yes, please, thank you. But other than that, I'm sad he's not in it more, and I feel like he's not in Avengers enough either.
He's not. He's relegated to the sidelines.
I've reconciled myself to the fact that I'll never get a Hawkeye movie. It just still makes me sad.
He better be in the Black Widow movie, is all I have to say.
Yeah.
And it better be about Budapest, but that's my own personal.
Right, of course. We're all like, okay,
Clearly, we've been
it's
asking
just
for this
something
since
that we
2012.
wanted really, really bad.
Come on, have a little.
Exactly. Oh, you get me.
I got you, John Mulaney, if you're out there.
Yeah.
I love that they have to like manufacture a high point for him because it's fucking New Mexico and there's like buildings or there's no high points. So they run like a line across and he goes up in the crane thingy. That is so funny. Like, why would you choose to take Hawkeye along with you to New Mexico?
People, you're right.
It was definitely because they wanted to shoehorn him in like before the Avengers, probably is my guess. Like, outside of canon reasons, like it was Marvel's decision to do that, but
I just had a thought, but like, how funny would it have been if they had swapped Hawkeye and Black Widow?
Oh
if
my
Black
God.
Widow had been in this movie.
Okay,
and
let's
he
talk
had
about that
been
for a while
in
because that's really
Iron
cool.
Man 2.
Can you imagine like Hawkeye is the like PA? Let Tony Stark be bisexual. They could have done the same thing,
Yeah.
I fully believe that Clint could have taken that role.
Oh yeah.
That would have been so funny. Also, Natasha in this movie, like I bet like with Thor at his current like his strength as immortal, she could have taken him down.
Oh, probably. That would have been awesome, by the way. I would like pay money to watch that.
It would have been her and him instead of like, where he gets tossed to the ground, he's like, oh, you're big, fought bigger or whatever, and they have that duke out. It would have been Natasha and Thor doing that. That would have been good.
True.
I would pay money to see that.
Yeah. Oh man, we could have had it
A-U,
all.
A-U,
Hey,
A-U.
you. Yes. But now I'm just gonna think about Clint being
PA.
a PA. I love
A
it.
sexy PA who Tony is supposed to kind of go for. Oh,
Flirting with both Pepper
yeah.
and Tony.
Yes.
I'm here for it. It would have
We
been
have an
funny.
obvious agenda.
I'm not sorry about it. I won't apologize.
Um, we asked our Hawkeye, Eric, to send us like a clip or a sentence or whatever. I left him many options in my message. And I sent this 2 weeks ago and reminded him 2 days this week. And he said both times, yes, definitely. And then proceeded to not send us anything, which is not surprising knowing him. He is very busy. He just got married over the summer. And so, he has a family
And
now
he's
and
a
it's
teacher,
holidays.
and this is like the
Yes.
week leading up to Christmas break, so he's
Hashtag final.
probably swamped.
So we
So,
forgive him.
absolutely. And we're gonna both guess what we think he would have said.
If I were Eric, but I'm not, I'm just Caitlin. So this is mostly my thoughts on me and Eric and Hawkeye and Thor. But I think it's funny that Thor and Hawkeye technically kind of meet first before meeting the rest of the Avengers, because in real life, Eric and I knew each other first. We went to high school together, and then we ended up going to the same college. We were not friends in high school, and we became very good friends in college, which is funny how things work. But so there's just parallels that,
Yeah,
you
there's a
see
real
everything.
life parallel, and it's nice. It's nice.
Clint Thor writes.
Yes. I think Eric probably, I don't know, I like to think he would be annoyed about the same thing I'm annoyed about, which is that he's
Probably.
only in there for like 5 minutes.
He would
Like,
probably, yeah, if we're being serious here, he would probably just have like a scathing remark about
what is the point?
yeah, or something totally funny and random. Like, I bet Hawkeye ate like only potato chips that
I
day.
was thinking about that too. Because for reference, everybody, once the Avengers tried to do a group vlog, and all of Eric's videos were just of him eating things for like 5 minutes.
The
So
first
I
one,
was thinking, like, Hawkeye didn't eat enough in this movie.
I'm
There you
so
go.
glad we drifted, Gabs.
Oh man,
Yeah, because that
so
was
pathetic.
immediately my thought, is that video of him like eating out of a bag of chips and there's like epic music playing in the background. You could just
Yes.
hear him crunching and chewing. And it's just him staring into the camera. He does this for 5 minutes and doesn't blink or well, he probably blinked. Eric is amazing and probably like the wild card of the group, I would argue. I know we often call like Colton that, but that's just because Colton cancels a lot on us. Eric is truly just a wild person who is now having to not be as wild because he's married and like, has a family. Anyways, I think actually that's it. We ended with Hawkeye this time.
Yep.
Oh,
And
wait, hero questions.
yes, I was gonna say that.
Number one, are they happy? Is Thor happy?
At the beginning, he seems pretty
He
happy.
seems pretty damn happy at the beginning. Yeah. And
At
then
the end, no.
no.
Not so much.
The true hero origin story. Hawkeye, I guess we don't really know if he's happy. He seems pretty happy when he's watching Thor beat the shit out of that guy.
That
I
seems like
wonder
something you enjoy.
yeah. I wonder if that guy like did something to him, like ate his chips,
Headcanon.
Two, what do they sacrifice? Well, Thor
all
literally,
of his power.
yeah, but argument
Oh,
there
true.
is
He
that,
didn't actually sacrifice it. You're
yeah,
right. He had it taken away.
but he's willing to sacrifice his life, right?
He's willing
For
to sacrifice his life. He
the
was
crown.
willing to let Loki be king.
True,
I don't know if he viewed that as a sacrifice or not,
true.
but it
Earlier,
was a
Thor
thing
would
that
have.
he had and that he was going to have. And then when Loki had it, he was like, it's okay. I just want to come home.
Yeah.
So
I would view that as a sort of sacrifice. Although maybe, yeah, like you said, like him in the moment, he probably didn't think of it.
Right.
These are actually hard for Clint because I think his movie is
But did
actually
Hawkeye sacrifice his chips to that?
he lost his chips to that evil man. Oh, he's a true hero. Number three, what makes them a hero? Thor, again, this is post being humbled, right?
Mm.
Because in the beginning, I think we can all agree he's not he is not a hero. I think what makes Thor a hero is his willingness to just sacrifice, I mean, everything, his life and, you know, mostly his life, I guess, but his new life, I guess, his relationship with Jane, just to protect the people in that town that he, you know, just met or saw the other day. You know what I mean? Like he just got there a day and a half ago.
Mine is more like he's willing to I don't know. He's known Loki his entire thousands of years long life, and he's willing to go against his brother and what his
Mm,
brother believes and is working for in order to again help these other people that he doesn't really know. And I know how big a deal like family is to you, especially
yeah,
when it comes to stories. And so the fact that he does that and you still like him, even though he, fights his
yeah.
family, says a lot.
That is very true. And I think it's because like he's going against Loki, but at the same time he's trying to make Loki see the light, so to speak.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like he still very much loves Loki, but he realizes that Loki is
He's
wrong.
not going to do it as at other people's expense.
Exactly, yeah. And that's my favorite kind of family drama. When like you love someone so much, but they're wrong and you have to, I mean, either
Kick
let it
their
go or
ass.
try to change them or make them see the light, not change them rather. That's kind of not good. What makes Mr. Clint Barton a hero?
How can I tie this into his chips? Um,
He did not shoot the guy who stole his chips.
there you go.
He could
And
have.
he
He had
didn't
the
shoot
vantage point.
Thor. There we go. And
True.
he had
Yeah.
the high ground and he
And he
didn't
didn't
shoot
shoot
Thor.
either. He didn't shoot either of them. So
There
that's
we
pretty
go.
damn good. Oh man. We'll come back to you, Hawkeye, in the Avengers and also
We'll
Age of
probably have
Ultron.
more to say then.
Yeah. I think both Avengers and Age of Ultron are kind of his movies ish.
He
That's a
definitely has a larger
yeah.
role in them
That's
though,
a
so
large statement or to say, I think, but he shines in those movies in comparison to
well,
this one
he's
and like
got
Civil War.
to.
Yeah. Anyways, that is it, everyone. That is it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. We have hero charts, tracking the progress of how good of a hero all the characters are that
Yeah.
we're working on.
We're gonna be posting them after every episode, I believe, airs.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, or like
Yeah.
an updated chart.
Yep.
And next time, oh, I think we're at the Avengers, aren't we?
Yeah, Avengers
Oh
is next.
my God.
Yay.
Hell yeah. I love this movie so much, so I'm very excited. And we might actually be joined by Hannah, our Black Widow slash Spider-Man, and Brad, our Hulk. In
Yes.
our hope is because we're all getting together for New Year's Eve and a couple days before that, actually, a couple different times, because everyone's home for a break, which is nice. Um, and hopefully they will agree to sit down and just talk to us for a little
I'll
bit.
bribe them. I'll
We'll
bribe
bribe
them.
them. Yeah, we'll pay
I
for their
will.
booze or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll work.
It usually works. So for now, we hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. AvengeGirls out.